Thank you for tuning. Today with us we have Carol Ebert. Carol, say hi to the people.
Hey, hi people.
So I appreciate your time today because what we know is that especially in today's world, everybody's just so busy. And there's gifts and curses to that. I want to start off with asking you, how do you define busy?
That's a great question. How do I define busy? Busy is when, and this is how I notice it, is when I don't feel good because I'm too busy, meaning I'm on overload. So that tells me that busy for me is when you're on overload and you take, and your body, your mind responds negatively and reminds you to slow down.
Okay. So let's take a look at what busy is.
Hmm.
I based the channel off originally started off etymology, so we got to go to etymology here and check it out. And what we have is we have busy is 13 before 1375, and then from roots back to before 1000, it was coming from careful, anxious, of course, busy, occupied.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of tells us that busy could be a good thing and a bad thing, because that's why people get busy to begin with. If they're doing something they enjoy, you can do it forever, right? And be no
Yep.
worries. If you're doing
Yep.
something you hate, that's
Right.
when stress comes in.
You
And
got it. You got it.
now that
Yes.
we got this on the table here with the definition,
Yes.
speak on that for us. How does that relate?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Now that we're looking at the actual value of the word busy, the
Right.
etymology, occupied, it could be a good or bad thing, but when it's bad, it becomes stress oriented, right?
Correct. Correct.
So talk about that dynamic between healthy busy and unhealthy busy.
Well, and I like that word occupied because, as you said, when you're occupied and you're loving what you're doing, time doesn't matter. You're just cruising, you're in your groove. But when you're over occupied or preoccupied, should we say also, you get yourself beyond what the capacity is for your constitution to handle it.
Hmm.
And you can tell that, like I mentioned before, your body gives you a message whenever you've pushed the limits. For me, I get headaches, and I'm cruising along thinking, and I love to be busy. This is the problem. I have that love hate relationship with busyness because to me, when I'm really busy and I'm into it, I almost don't know that I've crossed the line until my head starts hurting, and I say, "Oh yeah, I've done it again, gone too far." And so that's why it's important for you to tune into your body and to know what your body is telling you at all times, because often we want to cover that stuff up by saying, well, I get headaches when I'm too busy, but then I just take aspirin and I can keep going. That's where you miss the point.
Right.
That we don't want to move into, let's cover up the symptoms of stress with something to feel better and keep going versus what do I need to do so I don't reach that point of pain? And if I do reach that point of pain, how can I bring myself back to center and remove the pain without going to a drug? And that's why I really focus on self care tools
Hmm.
because we are in control of our bodies and minds, and we have our own pharmacy inside of us that we can release at any time if we need it without taking an external drug.
That makes sense because when you start taking the external drugs, you create a codependency on that, and then we may or may not be aware of what the you got side effects and then you got side effects. Like I remember when I had a wisdom tooth removed, and they were like, "Hey, you want some Percocet?" And I was like, "No," because the reason why people get because look, here's what happens when we take a painkiller, right? It kills all the pain, which is supposed to be a great thing. But what you didn't realize was because of the toxic workplace of stress and because of this and because maybe you're in a toxic relationship, you didn't realize how much pain you were actually feeling on a daily basis because your body had like leveraged it a little bit to make it manageable for you naturally, like you said. So then
Yep.
you take whatever painkiller and it kills all the pain and you're in this like new state, new world. Now, when your prescription run out, you're like all of that normal daily pain that you had become used to over the decades returns, and you didn't realize what you were feeling on a daily basis, and now you're like, that's how you become addicted to pain.
You got
I,
it.
ironically, I mean, or it's addicted to painkillers.
Yes.
Ironically, it's the same reason why people like comedy so much because you laugh till your belly hurts, your body induces its natural painkiller, and now you're like, I feel great. I feel great. I love the comedy show. Let's go again.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
addicted. You don't realize where that's coming from.
Right.
So
Right.
let's look at the word stress,
Ooh.
right? So stress, 1303 now was hardship, coercion, pressure. And then here's the thing again. If you're doing something you enjoy, the struggle is fun, right? The pressure of beating that level on Nintendo back in the day was fun before the clock ran out when you were playing Mario, right? It'd be frustrating if you had to go start over, but it
Yep.
was part of the fun. So now, when does stress switch over from being fun to like get me the fuck out of here?
Right. 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 I'm responding mostly to that word pressure
Okay.
because, and I can speak from my standpoint, when I feel tight, pressure, and my headache is generally pressure, like a vice. So that's when I notice I'm overstressed. I'm under pressure. And there's good pressure always,
Mhm.
that if you have to get something done on time and you're under pressure to get it done, but it doesn't cause a negative feeling in you. It's just you're under pressure to get it done and you get it done. And then it releases. But it's that pressure that stays with you.
Mm,
That it means you're holding on to that tension. You're not letting it go. And it's
right.
taking a toll on you.
Right. And chronic stress actually is linked to like many health issues. Like the cortisol levels reach a certain point, entire systems in the body shut down. It affects your cardiovascular disease, mental health issues, all this stuff, right?
Yep.
So how much of society suffering um basically stunts its productivity, whether we're trying to become sustainable or wondering why we're going to jobs and your boss is like, we need to reach this goal. And you're like, the whole workplace is only reaching 75% of the goal because they haven't addressed the quality of life and morality of the actual workplace. So
Right.
speak on that, for example, because I've talked about it in a video a few weeks back, how they know that toxic conditions at a workplace are part of what's leading people to have these diseases and dies on these annual statistics, these huge numbers, but they're quietly not doing nothing about it.
Right.
And
Right.
that's kind of like where you come in at, right?
Yeah. That's very interesting because I can tell you that, as a health professional, a wellness professional, living a healthy lifestyle, doing everything right, and yet in my last job working in a business, I was so stressed out that I ended up with all kinds of stress related conditions. And I thought, why is this happening? I am nurse wellness.
Mhm.
Why am I getting so stressed out when I do everything right? But as you said, the toxic workplace um, sees, and this is my opinion, sees us as a number. We fill a role. If you can't fill the role, buy, and we'll get another person in there. So
Mm-hmm.
the they are not. This is my opinion always. That I think there are few businesses that really are focused on the well-being of the employee as the first priority. And I have seen places where that is the first priority, and everybody's happy and productive. And then the rest of them that are not seeing well-being as a priority, they are having people leaving, or they are having more health ailments, more having to see the physician more often, having more medical costs because their employees are stressed or ill or whatever. I mean, I just see all those negative things happening, and I know it could be prevented. I'm into prevention. That's my goal, not
Mm-hmm.
treatment, unless you really, really need it. But I have seen too much of toxicity in the workplace. I hear about it all the time. I work with nurses who are experiencing it to the max because of all of what they went through with the pandemic, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the shift happening toward why don't we start taking care of our people? I don't see that shift. And I can relate only to healthcare because that's my arena. So I see, and I don't, literally, I've been in the wellness industry for over 40 years, and I've been that educator in the medical center or wherever I worked that talks about prevention and wellness and keeping people well. And you'll have better work, better productivity, better everything, happier people, people who say, you should work there because it's so cool there.
Mm-hmm.
And your bosses are great. If you don't hear that, something's going on.
That's a great segue because I wanted you to take a moment and explain to him your background
Mm,
about nursing, why you left, where you wound up, and your transition that actually led you to author the book "Too Busy for You: How to
yes, thank
Promote Prioritize Yourself
you. Yes,
for a Balanced, Mindful, and Happy Life."
yes, yes, yes. Thank you for that. Yes. I started out as a nurse and went into the military right away. I thought that would be different, and it
Mhm.
was. And when I got out, I was back to the bedside in a hospital, and I really said, I don't fit here. I mean, I love people and I want to help people, but I saw a bigger picture and I said, everything I'm taking care of could have been prevented. And why hasn't that happened? And so I said, I need to find a role where I can be in the prevention side. So I shifted into school nursing where I was able to teach people how to be healthy. I had the students, I had the faculty, I had the community, I had everybody that I could give education to on how to stay healthy and not go into the system, the medical system. So I really got excited about that. And then believe it or not, I'm probably one of the few um, pioneers of the wellness industry. I was there at the beginning. And so I have watched the whole thing evolve over the time that I've been into wellness to the point where right now everything is wellness. Whether it's
Mhm.
wellness or not, they call everything wellness. So that's not always, that's going to the extreme now. But the point I'm making is that it was a beautiful thing that it actually took hold. So now what I find, however, is it still isn't pure wellness, meaning um, you need to be in charge of your well-being. You are in charge, not your doctor, not your practitioner, not your chiropractor, none of them. You're in charge. And it's all about what are you doing for yourself to stay well. And so one of the things that I did leading into that book that you mentioned, I was writing blogs on wellness for nurses, allnurses.com. And so I've been doing that for a couple of years, writing these beautiful blogs and researching and, great stuff. And I'm all done with that. And I said, you know, I just did a lot of work here for helping people be well. I think I'm going to take all those blogs and make it into a book, which I did. And I thought to myself, this is what I know. This is what I know about how to be well. And all of the tools are in here. And so it's actually a self guide. If you pick up this book, and it'll talk you through all kinds of issues and how you can resolve things, take care of things, improve things, but it's on your terms. And that's my goal, because I'm also a wellness coach.
Hmm.
And any good coach will tell you, my goal when I work with a client is to get them to the point where they can coach themselves. That I have guided them long enough, and they've done the work on their own, and they've learned how to take care of themselves. And I can back away. And so this book does that, guides you on your own terms to find all the tools, try the tools, use the tools, see the benefit of the tools, and then you will have a better life. And because I've done all this, I've done the work, I do it on myself. I'm a self care guru. Because if
Hmm.
there's a self care tool out there, I want to try it. Because I think it's important for me as a practitioner to know how these things work and how do they work. And I'm the laboratory. I do
Right.
all the work on myself. And and I'm grateful for that, because I have basically, when I think about how much I've used the healthcare system, it's been minimal, because I've always been able to resolve things on my own.
Hmm.
There are times when you need it. You must, always. We have to have that system when things go really awry, or if you need surgery or whatever.
Yeah,
But
the
we,
triage.
yeah, we overuse the system way too much. We're way too dependent on it. I'm guilty. When I was in healthcare, we expect them come to us and we have the answers. And so people have gotten conditioned to, well, I have to ask my doctor first.
Right, right, right. That's where the ultimate question is, because when you say they have gotten conditioned, and you say that the ultimate goal for the community is get to the point where we we can be sustainable ourselves, right?
Right,
So what's feeding that condition? What When we look back at it and you realize that 17% of the gross domestic product, the GDP of the United States jurisdiction, is health related, and they're in a situation where they're scrambling trying to up their income or their revenue, so to speak, can we now question why potentially there are so many sick people and more sicknesses? And yeah, let's leave them at the workplace and not do nothing so they can get sick. So, do we, in your steps, how far do we go down the frog in the boiling water road, right?
hmm
Before we as a community or as an individual, maybe it's a household, maybe you're dealing with a spouse that has a toxic workplace, or
hmm
just not the right fit for them, or you're in a bad relationship, or whatever the case is. Before we say we have to remove ourselves from that, and then if that's our only alternative, then we have to change it, right?
right,
So if
right.
the government or the United States is saying, hey, 17% of our revenue is sick people, we need more sick people, and the workplace benefits from that because they get to do whatever they want to you, and lower pay, lower quality of life, increased productivity, which makes you sick. So everybody's checking off boxes there for good luck for them, but it's destroying us in our community and creating what kind of world for the future. At what point do we have to say we need to remove ourselves from the source of the stress? How do we know when that's the golden ticket?
Yeah. That's exactly what happened to me, is that I got so stressed out, doing work I love in a toxic environment. So guess what won? The toxic environment won. And I said, I can't. And I've never left a job without
Mhm.
another one to go to. But I was so miserable and stressed that I said, I quit. And I didn't have a plan. I don't recommend that.
Right.
But what I did have was tools. I had all my wellness work. And I thought, I'm going to go out on my own, because if the system is killing me, and that's how I felt,
Hmm.
I can't continue. So I had to really kind of do one of those, checks with your mindset and say, What are you doing? You're killing yourself by staying there. So I left. But what I did do was I said, I'm nurse wellness. I can do work on wellness on my own terms. So I had to, of course, learn how do you do that as an independent practitioner. And I learned that was another whole learning curve for me. But actually, was the beauty of it was that I was free, no boss. I could control my time. I could still do the work that I love, but on my terms. I didn't have to wait 5 years for an idea to reach fruition. I
Right.
could say, I got an idea today, I'm going to implement it tomorrow. So it's like the freedom of all of that totally released the stress. It took it took a while. I literally took about 9 months before all of that started finally releasing. But here's an example. When I was in the toxic environment doing the wrong work, let's enter data on your programs instead of be out in an audience talking.
Mm.
Let's do this all day. Well, then I got like this. And I had carpal tunnel syndrome, if you know what
Mm.
that is.
Yeah.
Well, the referral was you need surgery. And I'm saying to myself, nurse wellness needs surgery on carpal tunnel from stress? That's not right. So when I got out and all that stress went away, I've never had surgery on my wrists. So there's an example of
So.
when you stay trapped in toxicity,
Hmm.
the path is only one way. It keeps getting worse. And then you need more of the system telling you, well, now let's give you pain pills. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's that path. For me, my path is the wellness path. So extricate myself out of there
Right.
and release the stress. I am fine now. And it's because I had to take a stand. I know it's not easy. People can't just quit their jobs. I could say, yes, you can, but have a plan. Do it
Hmm.
gradually if you need to. But also start looking at what do you need for your well-being that you're not getting where you are. If you're not getting it, you've got to change because you're only going to get sicker.
Yeah, and it's like everything's like a trap now because the things that people be like they're too busy for, like work commitments. I got a little list here: work commitments, family and care responsibilities, social commitments, technology and connectivity. They staring at the phone or they playing the PS5 or PS4 or Nintendo back in the day. Multiple different roles and responsibilities, your ambitions and your goals, fear of missing out, and then cultural expectations are what really keep people too busy. So, the irony is that if a person's really focused on, let's say, their career, their job, the product they're creating, they're inventing, they don't feel like they're missing out from family, right?
Hmm.
So the family feels like they might be missing out from them, and then there might be stress added to the situation because the spouse might be like, "Hey, you need to spend time with us," but they're out there enjoying this, and every moment that they're away from that, they feel the stress of separation from that.
Yeah.
So what happens is there's not like a magic set of rules to apply for everybody. So everybody's going to be different, right?
Right,
So
right.
now that opens up the opportunity for you to let us know how prioritizing self-care is going to increase productivity and performance in not only your personal life but your professional.
Right.
But then the roadblocks individuals face in finding the time for self-care, because what is their self-care for them? So cover that for us real quick.
Yeah. Yes, you have to prioritize everything, don't we have we're pulled in so many different directions. Um, but what's the most important thing here is you. So something has to go because you're first. And I'm sorry, but you're first. That's why I
Mhm.
said too busy for you on the book.
Self-preservation.
You have got to take care of yourself first because you are, in many cases, the woman might be the mainstay of a big family unit, and she's working and running a household and kids and all that. If the woman, I'm just picking on us,
Mhm.
gets sick, everything falls apart. You can't afford to get sick, and we know it. So, what are we doing to stay well? And I know that I hear that all the time, and I know about women, I know I am one, that we have a tendency to think about everybody else first. And you're the last one. Now, that is a message that we have to change. Women have got to think about first, and men too, let's face it, it's just humans, got to take care of yourself first because there's so much riding on you being well. And if you're not well, things are going to deteriorate, things are going to fall apart. And not only that, you have a right to take yourself first, to be your first person. You need to shift your brain. I mean, this is not something that can be changed overnight, obviously, but that's actually what I do with coaching, is to help people prioritize themselves first. Because once you do that, everything will be better. Everything will run smoother,
Mhm.
and you'll have a clearer idea of what are the things that you're doing that you should just let go of or delegate. But if you're so wrapped up in, I've got all this stuff that I'm responsible for, you can't even think at that point. Seriously, you're just operating on automatic pilot. And that's not what we want. We want you to be in charge of yourself, your well being, your brain power, everything, so that you're making good decisions. And I know, again, speaking from the woman's perspective, we take on too much. I know that. We don't have to take on everything. I mean, I have to laugh sometimes. I think some women that I know that aren't even challenging their children to learn how to cook and do laundry and clean the house. Come on, why are you doing that for them? So that's just a little piece of an example that
Mhm.
we need to control what's happening in our lives and see where we're overdoing and we're too busy when it doesn't have to be that way.
I
But
like
again, that's why as a coach, sometimes I have to help them see that vision. They don't always see it.
and it's easy for it to be blinded by that because societal values, right? If look at it right now, COVID, everybody was like, prices went through the roof. Currencies, what takes $100 now to buy what you used to be able to get $2 with back in the 30s. So now, what does that mean? We know about the separation of wages, compensation, and productivity back in '79. So now this goes back to the workplace. Got you doing productivity is up 80% since '79, maybe 90, maybe more by now. I think that graph I had was from like 2017 or something.
Mhm.
But that it's up 80%. Your wages only went up 8%. So now what it's doing is it's creating a culture of feeling overpressured, overcommitting, perpetual cycles of stress. So that affects like we said, that affects your relationship. That negative energy comes home into the household. How does it get dissipated? If it doesn't get dissipated, what happens then to the family unit? All
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. So speak on the overall connection, both for it to be blamed, right? And for to be a part of the solution when we come to the way what our society is valuing and how we got brainwashed into valuing that situation.
Oh, I guess one of the things would be to turn off the TV. um, I think when it becomes just so overwhelming, it's like, is everything awful? You get that feeling. You're just overloaded with negativity all the time. Okay, so if you could get a clear picture of that and say, oh, how can I reduce the negativity? What would it take for me to do that? And
Mhm.
maybe start just looking at things individually. What can I do about that? Well, maybe I don't have to do that. Or maybe I don't have to watch the news 24 hours a day. Maybe I turn it off and watch something for fun. try to do these incremental little things that reduce negativity. And it really is a sorting thing to sort it all out and sit down and just say, what's going on here? This is a big picture, like a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me sort, like you would clean your office out. It's a mess. So you start with one little thing at a time, right? I'll do that shelf. And then I feel better. So do that in your life. Find these little pockets and say, why am I getting so excited about something that I have no control over?
Mm-hmm.
That is key. So if, you know, what I would say, here's an example. Write down all the things that are driving you crazy. Make a big list. And then on that list, just say, what do I have control over and what do I not have control over? Go down that list and cross out everything that you have no control over. Now you got something you can work with. You got to simplify your list into the things that you are in charge of and then work on that one by one.
I like that. Simplify the list to those things that we are in control of. And
Right.
what that's going to do is it's going to give you, from a project management standpoint, what we call that is giving weight to the individual items. And then you can say, okay, this will give me the, if I change this now, if I make that list and it's got 30 things on there, right? You see the guy over there, he's stressed, he looks stressed, maybe he's not stressed, whatever. He makes his list, he's got 30 things on his list. He finds out that 12 of them are in his control. Now he can put those in order based on weight, which is different dynamics. We'll leave that for Q&A later. But
Yep.
you weigh them out and you find out number 1 through 4 is within your means to handle and manage right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you take care of those 4 things, and that leaves you 8 to work on later that are smaller, but you got the max value out of making those changes to those 4. So
Yeah.
you feel a greatness, and then you can go back later on and work on the remaining 8, right?
Exactly.
So we can do that. Once we learn how to do that with ourselves,
Yes.
we can then do it in our households.
Yes.
We can do it in our neighborhoods
Yes.
and then the city, state. And
Yep.
that's how you make America great, right?
Well, yeah, and be involved. I mean, you know, that's another whole big discussion. But, you know, don't just sit back and say, well, I can't do anything about this. Well, that's also a cop out if you do nothing, you know. So let's do something, but make it sensible for you and not everything for everybody
Right,
or nothing at all. You know, there's got to be a happy medium in there.
right. So let's do this. It is about 40 minutes in here, 30, a
Mhm.
little over 30 minutes. We're over 30 minutes. So let's go. Let me know what your closing topic is for the people. What do you want them to take away from this?
I want you to know that you're in charge of you. You are the one that is going to help yourself be a better person. Nobody else, you. And that when it comes to prioritizing anybody or anything, you're first. You are the one. And that you have control over your well being. And as long as you are willing to be open to trying new things to help yourself,
Mhm.
there are a lot of great self care tools out there waiting for you to sample.
Right.
And I recommend sampling them all because that's what I do. And you'll find the ones that work for you.
Right. That makes sense. I like the way you put that because I mean we've all look, we've all, regardless of our physical fitness condition, right? We've all been to a buffet and had a sample spree, right? Well, let me try a load of this, let me try a load of. So why don't we do that in this area of our life, right? Go and try
Exactly.
different things, find out, you may find out something works better for you than you thought it would.
Yeah,
Or some things exist that you didn't even know.
that's
And
right.
then you can become an advocate of that change in others as well too, right?
Exactly. The minute you adopt it and say, oh, you get excited about it and say, you got to try this because it really feels good for me. And
Mhm.
then you're just spreading more well being through the population.
And that's what we need. That's what's going to help us understand the value and accept the change and move from transactional leadership and situations to transformative and
Yes,
start to bring up the quality of life. The make the new standard, not productivity, but sustainability and the quality of life in our
yeah,
communities and industries.
excellent. Thank you.
I'm Pasha Paroh. It's White and Seven. We have Carol Ebert. Say bye to the people, Carol.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
I appreciate your time today.